What's up, my comic comrades? The first official DCU project under James Gunn's creative watch is the Creature Commandos animated series for the Max streaming service. The Creature Commandos will then cross over into live action at some point in the DCU as well. I will say, in true James Gunn style, the Creature Commandos is a deep pull even for regular comic readers. There's certainly not a group of characters that get brought up often, but James Gunn's specialty is turning obscure characters into fan favorites, so I'm sure they won't stay obscure for long. In the meantime, let's break down this team of monsters to see who they are and what they're all about. The Creature Commandos first appeared in Weird War Tales issue 93 in 1980. They were created by J.M. DeMatteis and Pat Broderick. The team consisted of monster archetypes that were created by the military to strike fear into their enemies. When we're first introduced to the Creature Commandos, we see them busting through a wall ready to take down Nazis, as a big caption says, introducing World War II's weirdest warriors, the Creature Commandos. We then get their origin, which begins at a Midwest Army base on a spring day in 1942. A caption says security is tight on the base, and even the usually well-informed top brass that pass through the heavily guarded front gates know next to nothing about the mysterious Project M, as a high-ranking military head flashes a Project M top security clearance badge to get through. We then see all the heads of the military in a room with a caption saying, from across the nation and across the globe, they came. Generals, admirals, senators, and their uneasy attention is locked on the solitary figure Lieutenant Matthew Shreve of the U.S. Army Intelligence. We see he tells them, now that we are all here, I think we can begin. I want to talk to you all about the Dark Realms, the underside of man's consciousness, the realms where we keep our personal monsters in mental chains. One of the admirals say, now look here, son, I didn't leave the war and come running here just to listen to some tripe about things that go bump in the night. Just what the devil have you army boys got going on that's so all important? Lieutenant Shreve responds, firstly, Admiral, the project is the result of a combined effort of all our armed forces, not to mention a number of civilian groups. Secondly, if you just turn your attention to the screen behind me, I believe all of your well-intended questions will be answered. At this point, the lights go dim and the film starts up on the screen behind them, as we see Lieutenant Matthew on the screen working on some sort of monster lying on a table. With him commentating, as many of you already know, intelligence has long been interested in aiding the war effort, not just on the physical level, but on a psychological one as well. We researched the subconscious archetypes, the symbols of fright and horror that all men seem to share, regardless of social and cultural conditioning. And then we set about scientifically recreating them. That was the birth of Project M. For monster. So basically we learned that the US Army Intelligence has been experimenting and recreating classic monsters to scare their enemies. But the kicker is they've been using humans to do this. The first one we learn about is Warren Griffith, Oklahoma farm boy with a problem. He suffers from lycanthropy, a condition a team of specifically selected scientists and medical men managed to manifest physically in our young volunteer, aka a form of insanity in which a person imagines himself as a werewolf. Lieutenant Shreve then says, next came Sergeant Vincent Velcro, who wisely managed to avoid a 30-year sentence in an army brig by joining Project M for 6 months. He was injected with a compound composed of experimental chemicals and blood extracted from the New Mexican vampire bat, and the result was intriguing. He goes on to say, finally there was a good-hearted Marine private named Lucky Taylor, whose luck ran out when he stepped on a landmine on some godforsaken island in the Pacific. Our surgeons worked on him for weeks on end, putting Lucky back together again, although not the way he was originally constructed. Essentially, we see the army has turned civilians into their versions of the Wolfman, Dracula, and Frankenstein's monster. At this point, the film feed fades as all of the high-ranking officials rise in outrage, yelling at the lieutenant saying, what is this nonsense? How dare you call us together to hear such idiocy? Lieutenant Shreve says, sirs, be calm and behold the Creature Commandos, as they literally come bursting through the wall. Lieutenant Shreve says, a slightly melodramatic entrance, but one that I think gets the point across quite effectively. The general says, you expect us to be fooled by some ludicrous Hollywood costume job? I am appalled, Lieutenant. Vincent Velcro, aka the vampire, then says, appalled, you don't know the meaning of the word. First understand what it is to be transformed into some kind of repugnant thing, and then be appalled. This is no Hollywood costume job, General. Ludicrous though it may be, you and your ilk have made me a creature that needs human blood to survive, and I will have yours. Velcro then turns into a bat, and then a vampire again, going for the general's neck. Lieutenant Shreve then orders Griffith, the man-wolf, and then Lucky, the green Frankenstein-like monster, to stop Velcro, which he ultimately does by grabbing him by the neck. Captions say, when the surgeons rebuilt Lucky Taylor's body, they neglected to give him vocal cords, and thus he says nothing. He merely flashes frustration from the depths of his pale blue eyes. After this display, the general comes over saying, Lieutenant Shreve, these commandos of yours are a menace. They are a terrifying, reprehensible assortment of humans, and I hope that I never set eyes on them again. But that doesn't negate the fact that they may be the most effective secret weapons this country has ever seen. So you take your Creature Commandos, Lieutenant, and you teach those Nazis the true meaning of the word fear. fear, as the brass sent them to France to take on the Nazis. Once in France, they see that the Nazis have created android duplicates of Roosevelt, Stalin, Churchill, and Eisenhower. Lieutenant Shreve says, "Look around. Eisenhower, Stalin, Churchill, they're constructing a horde of these things. Android duplicates for the Nazis to slip in secretly. Think of it, allied nations being run by pawns." They are then interrupted by the Nazis saying, "It is a beautiful plan, is it not? A pity you will not live to see it come to fruition." But clearly they do, as the Creature Commandos take care of all the Nazis. After this, the Creature Commandos went on to have several adventures and weird war tales, with the original lineup only consisting of Lieutenant Shreve, Warren Griffith, the Werewolf, Sergeant Vincent Velcro, the Vampire, and Lucky Taylor, the Frankenstein's monster. However, by the time issue 110 of Weird War Tales came around, Dr. Myra Rhodes would be introduced and eventually join the Creature Commandos. She would join as Dr. Medusa, as after she inhaled strange fumes and grew living snakes for hair, she looked just like Medusa of Greek mythology. G.I. Robot, aka Jake, would even become a member of the team. Simply put, he's a robotic soldier. Now, obviously, looking at this lineup, it's easy to see that James Gunn will be changing his roster for the DCU and do something a little different, more similar to the New 52 rendition of the team. In the New 52 continuity, a new version of the team was introduced to us in the Frankenstein Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. series. In this take of the team, we find out that the Commandos work as field agents for the secret organization SHADE, which of course is led by Frankenstein. If you're wondering what SHADE stands for, it stands for Superhuman Advanced Defense Executive. It's a US military organization that investigates superhuman and paranormal activity. Anyway, this new modern take of the team consists of Vincent Velcro, who was given his vampire powers through a modified Man-Bat formula. You also have Warren Griffith, still a werewolf, and Kali, who is an Egyptian mummy. Then you have Dr. Nina Mazursky, who mutated and transformed herself into an amphibious creature that was like a hybrid mermaid gillman thing. She did this so she could fight alongside the team, and we will be seeing her in the Creature Commando animated series. Lastly, two more characters who will be on Gunn's version of the team is Frankenstein and his estranged bride. So all in all, it looks like the DCU version of Creature Commandos will be a hybrid between the original and New 52 version. And I have to imagine the overall premise will stay the same, which is the military creating soldiers via experiments to make a paranormal military unit to strike fear and take out its enemies. Also, when Amanda Waller finds out about them in the DCU, she's going to be pissed, as she's the only one who's allowed to do things like this in her eyes, as she also controls a special unit, the Suicide Squad. But there you have it, friends, an explanation of who the Creature Commandos are and what they're all about. But I know a lot of you are wondering what are some good reading recommendations for the Creature Commandos to get you even more prepared for their DCU debut. Well, first and foremost, check out the Creature Commandos trade paperback, which consists of their Weird War Tales run, the 2000 Creature Commandos series, which lasted for 8 issues, and lastly, check out Frankenstein Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the New 52. That should be more than enough to get you all started. Now it's your turn to let us know what you think of this monster team and the plans to make them part of the new DCU. Hit us in the comments. Other than that, we'll see you next time when I talk about all things comics.